just need to
I
follow
haven't
up
thought of
with him
that
tomorrow.
since we be like, I'm not going
He
to
was
show any
supposed to be
preferences, so
getting
whenever they get to us.
engineering, so I hope
It's going to be, we're last.
We're
And
last.
I mean,
Right,
last,
I know.
the last
No, I
project
appreciate
on
you
all the
checking.
lists.
But that's who
10 years
I
from
gave it
now.
to.
We are now live. All right. Since we are live, we will call this meeting of the Transient Guest Tax Committee here in December to order. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is sort of an end-of-the-year review meeting, more than anything. Do our due diligence here at the end of the year to catch up with some projects and get some information from staff on where everything's at and how disbursements have been. That's good in general, but the last year, combined with the last 2 years of COVID, have been their own sort of oddness in general. So we'll get a couple presentations or comments from some of the projects and individuals who get some of the TGT funds, also to catch us up on their projects, and then there's a few other items. First is, let's approve those minutes from March. Is that March? That's not right. We've had a meeting since March, haven't we? I don't think that's right. I guess it's March. All right. Well, either way. Anyone want to give me a second on there?
Second.
Anyone opposed to approving the minutes? Speak now. All right. Sounds good. I'm going to interject a little before we do a review of the disbursements. I want to, instead of waiting until the end, because these both may come up in some small fashion, address two issues. The first is, I've had many questions about the Knievel project and those funds. So I want to give everyone an update as to where we're at. To date, that project still has no official contract to move. They are still moving in that direction, I am told, but nothing is officially signed. So there's nothing for them to report to us from that standpoint. As far as I know, the commitment to repay some of the funds still stands, and the funds themselves are just being held to the side. They are not being dispersed to Knievel, but they are not available yet to anyone else. We are still contractually obligated to hold on to those funds until there's some official movement with that project. They understand we're not going to be repaying it to them at this time, but there's nothing we can do about that yet. I believe early next year we'll be able to make some decisions, and we'll have a more full discussion on what that process would look like, who's eligible for those, and kind of what the full council wants to do. So yes, those funds are in their own sort of odd purgatory at this moment, and we promise we will keep moving forward on that, but that's sort of the update for all those who keep asking me. It's okay to keep asking, but that's where we are as of to this time, and early next year, hopefully that can be addressed. The second issue that has come up, and I think some of us got a letter, Constitution Hall has an opportunity in front of them. They are one of the projects who get TGT funds, and I believe there's 7 years or so left on these payments to these projects. They have essentially said, we're not asking for any more money than we have been promised over the next few years, but they have a matching grant opportunity of $300,000 plus, and their request was, is there any way to get some of their money early so that they can bring in those dollars? What I've told them is, any opportunity our projects get to have free money coming into our community, so to speak, if we can help match it, we need to take an opportunity to explore that opportunity. And they have a few years on that grant, so we don't have to make any decisions today or tomorrow. But I think next year, staff and I will get together, and whoever's on this committee, along with them, and see if there's anything we can do to sort of help that along, so that they don't lose, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table for that project. So I know some of us got a letter about that, and there's been some questions about that. And I wanted them to hear publicly that we will all work with you, and we understand your predicament, and we'll see what we can do. So were there any questions about that, council members? Yes, Councilman Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would that be 150 then of our money, and them 150, or 300 from us, or?
No, I think they have a chance to get a $300,000 grant. They're just asking. I think we owe them another, and it's $100 and something thousand or $200,000 over the next 7 years. So they would just see if there's any way we could speed that up somehow to get them that. I think they have a 2-year window where if they could get all that money in the next 2 years instead of 7, then this grant would give them a full additional $300,000.
Give them okay.
On top of that, yeah. So it's a pretty good, decent opportunity, and I think that almost lets them finish then a lot of their interior projects. So it means a lot to their effort. So that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? With that, I will turn it over to the review disbursement status to date. It's a mouthful.
Got a simple PowerPoint for you today, just one slide. So there's two tables up here. This first one is the year-to-date allocations through September. And so we have 2019, 2020, and 2021 up here. Obviously 2020 was the COVID year, and that's why it's down. And so the comparison we're looking at is where we are compared to 2019. It's from about 2016 to 2019. The disbursements are around the same amount, and so getting back to 2019 is getting back up to close to normal. And so year-to-date allocations still down 12%, but the good news on the second table is just quarter three, which is July through September. We're actually up 11%. And so those first two quarters would have been still down compared to 2019, but we're starting to see that through the third quarter, we are now trending up.
That's good. And I guess, does this include, I guess we can look at the 2022 projections. Just wanna, do you guys have those, or is that a different slide?
Councilman, we don't have it on a separate slide, but I think our expectation right now is, given the quarter three uptick, that we're expecting quarter four to be similar. And so projecting back out, unless Mr. Dixon ends up telling you something different here in a little bit, I think our expectation is 2023, or 2022 rather, I'm sorry, would be similar to what we're experienced in 2019.
Okay. Unless things change again, which we won't know till we know. Well, one of the requests, the discussions I've brought and will bring up when we talk about the ARPA funds later is trying to make these projects what I call whole. Obviously, going into it, everybody understands the name of the game is if you only get what we collect, and we understand that, and all the projects have been great in recognizing that. But I know one of our discussions has been if there's an opportunity to go back and look at the last couple years and sort of get it up to what we thought it would be to make those projects whole, to improve. And that will be where that will go, I don't know. I'm one of 9 or 10, but we'll see. But that will be something at least that I will sort of put in front of the rest of the governing body as we talk about those ARPA funds. City Manager.
And I think that's critical, because when we did these contracts, they were for set amounts. And so if we don't work to get them whole, it lengthens the period of time that we'll have to pay them back. It may take an additional year to eventually get to the dollar that the contract established. And so if we can make them whole, that then gives you the opportunity to be able to consider additional projects once these are completed with their contracts. Otherwise, you'll have to wait a year to have that consideration.
Councilmember Ortiz?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, I forgot your name. What was
Oh,
your name?
yes, sorry. Adam Vaughn in the budget office.
The newer guy. Still know?
I just need to know who to holler at. That's all. Thank you.
And we've gotten a similar report, and I'm sure that it'll be updated from staff as sort of what the definition of making everyone whole is. It's not.
Yes.
The good news is it's not huge numbers in the grand scheme of things, but obviously to each project, that gap is much different than to us as an overall budget. Anything else from staff on that to add to the? Any other questions?
No, sir.
Any other questions? Councilman Ortiz, Councilman Lesser? Although I can't see you. I'm assuming he's shaking his head no.
I do have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any projects that had to be canceled because they didn't get the funding?
Not that I'm aware of. None of them contacted me regarding projects that they were putting on hold.
Were there any projects that got rescheduled that might cost us more? Do we know that? Because they didn't get to...
Yeah, I know that, for example, Constitution Hall moved forward with their major facelift this year. And I don't know, the Jayhawk may have had something or other that they delayed slightly, but not that I'm aware of.
And I'm just asking, because, the amount of building and stuff like that, materials are different, so I don't know if people charge more because they had to cancel and airlines or whatever, so that's why I'm asking, would anybody need more money because of the COVID and they didn't get?
Councilwoman, we get quarterly reports from the entities, and nobody in their quarterly reports has suggested that.
Okay, thank you,
No.
thank you.
I think for a couple of those, I mean, Evergy is already built, so at least they weren't having to put towards construct. Now they use those funds to help pay back some stuff and move forward. In Constitution Hall, like I said, they'd already started the facade, and I think they'd sort of paid some of that in. So luckily, I don't think it stopped any projects. I'm sure at the end, they're like, we got to still pay some bills. You can help the cause.
Well, when I was on here a long time ago, I dealt with Constitution Hall, but I feel like I'm new because we haven't really done anything. So I just wanted to make sure that got a clear understanding of that, because I know that there's just so many prices that have gone up and things that have changed. So I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right, with that, I don't think there's any particular order, and I don't know if everyone has someone here. I didn't ask for too formal. Some have, some don't, but at least some updates from the various groups. I guess I'll just start with Sean and go from there.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you. It's been a while. So just to follow up on the city staff, the quarter they just described, by all numbers, for various reasons, was the best quarter on record for the transient guest tax collections that we've seen, going back at least 20 years in the records I've got. So quite an interesting turn of events, something we didn't budget for. Largely driven, not necessarily by that much more demand. We're still trending about 10% lower than 2019 in overall rooms sold. But something that was a shock to many of us, including the Lodging Association and the hoteliers themselves, was due to staffing and other things related to them being able to conduct business. They had to raise their rates dramatically year over year. So the ADR to get a hotel room in Topeka versus last year, the year before, is on average $10 to $15 more a night to accommodate for that. So that's obviously benefited everyone's bottom line. And as tax collections go, have really benefited all of us in terms of those coming in, not only back to 2019 levels, but greatly exceeding what we had seen. And I've got good news. We're still seeing that. That didn't end with Q3. I just got in November from the state. We collected about $295,000 just for the month of November, which previously that record for November would have been $240 all time, and last year would have been $172,000. So we expect an even stronger Q4 coming out of this year. And regarding performance going into 22, I know the city set their estimates flat with 2019 revenues. Up until a month ago, I was about 90% of 2019 in my budget, and we bumped it all the way up to 2019 levels. So I think that's even conservative at this point. So we expect to see an increase in demand because obviously we're not going to start the year off shut down in a pandemic, and we had a rough quarter and a half with business not being able to occur in this market. Now we have concerts. Now we have shows and other things. And anyone worried about the variants and all that, you know, we took Delta into account and thought another shutdown was coming. And again, record quarter, even though we had a Delta variant spike in that. So as long as people are doing the right thing, wearing masks when they're asked to, and doing what they need to do to take care of themselves and protect themselves, I think we can still conduct business and have a good year when it comes to travel in Topeka. So that's really it. Our outlook is very good. And in terms of what we're preparing for, obviously people saw the announcement a couple weeks ago for Topeka Dino Days. The real work has started on that back end. Everything from coming up with making sure we've got a good ticketing plan with the county to creative assets, advertising plans, group plans, reaching out to schools for field trip options, all that kind of stuff. So we are doing what we can to make sure we come out of the holiday season into the spring very strong. And then the summer is already looking great for us. The Country Stampede shifted their date from June to July. Kid Rock is one of the headliners for that, so we expect to see a great turnout. All in all, 22 is looking fantastic, and I'll stand for any questions from anybody.
Will you talk about why they shifted that date? I know.
Weather concerns. So historically, okay. May and June, in terms of overall rainfall allocations for this market, peak for us. Getting it in July gets them a little bit easier ability to avoid a night closure like we saw last year. Friday night was rained out, and we had to have a performer not able to go on. But the rest of the weekend went phenomenal for us.
Are there any plans to try an air show again, or discussions about that?
I know Brooks Pettit, who heads that up, is in active negotiations with ACTS right now. So I think depending on when those land, the date will be set. It could be as early as May and as late as August at this point. But yes.
But probably independent of Stampede this
That
time.
is the plan. Those were initially paired out because the investors in both events were the same parties, and I thought that they would overlap and have some benefit. In the end, we really didn't see a lot of cross traffic between the two, sort of different audiences. So I think it strengthens the air show to have it stand independent on its own. We'll also look out for the other air show calendars. By pairing it to the Stampede, they really didn't give themselves any wiggle room to move it any other time, and the Kansas City Air Show ended up being a week later.
And how are we in Topeka compared to like the state trend? I mean, we looked at some of that in terms of how the state's trended this year.
Depending on the month, we're doing good. Just in terms of the trend line that I've got, we don't really dip below collections, at least on the transient guest tax statewide. In fact, 2 months ago, we were up about 5% what the overall market in the state saw, and November collections were even better on that. So, well, pound for pound, we're doing well, and closing out this quarter better than our peers.
Any questions, Councilwoman Ortiz?
Kid Rock?
Yes. Yeah.
He's half country now, you know.
Country music is becoming crossover and employing a lot of other acts in it. So
I think you need a VIP section, so, so I can get there.
I know some people. Yeah. Sure.
Any questions, Councilman Lesser?
No, I've seen Kid Rock. He puts on one hell of a show, and I shall be there this year.
In that VIP section?
I will say,
if there's a VIP section, I will be purchasing a VIP pass. Yes, ma'am, I will. He's good. He puts on a great show, and even if you don't like his music, he's a great performer, and it's a great show. Great show.
Yeah, great headliner. Something we're eager to be promoting. And I will just say something we started this year to draw and benefit from having the Stampede here now is Topeka Music Week. We are planning on doing that again and introducing a lot more diversity and variety into the market in terms of the amount of programming that occur in the month of July for us now. So look forward to some announcements here in the near term on that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, y'all.
I know Kurt wants to talk later. Did you want to say anything about Evergy? You don't have to. I'm just going through my list.
I can do it all at one time, or?
Yeah, I mean, either way, okay. Since you're here, you want to say anything about Evergy and how things are going over there?
Can we get a time limit set here?
Yeah. Well,
you've already exceeded your time with me this week. So
okay. Well, 2021 has been our really first true year of operation, full year of operation at the Plaza, Evergy Plaza. Of course, you remember there were two things that happened in the spring of 2020. We opened the Plaza and COVID hit almost simultaneously. So 2020 was a struggle. 2021 has been better and been real heavily involved in the last the last 30 days in establishing the budget and getting plans for 2022. I think you're going to be really excited when you see some of the things that we have on the slate. We're planning at least 6 to 8 major weekends where we have probably a band and hopefully large crowds on the plaza. So just a lot of good things happening. I get asked about ICE a lot. We are in the process of putting together a business case for ICE for late in 2022 that would carry over into 2023. We did not include that in the actual budget that we approved yesterday, but are looking at it as a completely separate business case. But I do get a lot of questions on ICE, and we'll see how that turns out here. Basically, if we're going to do the ICE, we have to pretty well have everything signed and sealed and ready to go by mid-year, so the vendors can all be lined up to get the necessary equipment here. But time will tell on that. That's yet to be determined. The transient guest tax allocation that we receive from this committee and from the city council is used 100% for debt service on the purchase of the real estate that the plaza is built on. We get a quarterly payment from you all with this transient guest tax money, and we turn around and make a quarterly payment on the debt service. So it's 100% allocated to that debt service. Be glad to answer any questions. I did want to just kind of pose a question, and I talked to Stephen about this a couple of months ago, probably 2 or 3 months ago. With the fact that we are 100% built, in operation, and utilizing the transit guest tax money for the debt service, I'm wondering about the necessity and the value of the quarterly reports that we do to the finance office. Would that be something that could be moved to an annual report, or just ask maybe for some consideration? It's not a burden, don't get me wrong. It's more Kurt Young remembering to do it than it is anything else. So just throw that out there as a consideration. I know the resolution, I think, requires it. Mr. Trout, is that true? Mm-hmm. So just give that some food for thought. But I'll be glad to answer any questions. 2022 is going to be a really good year.
We can talk to staff about that question. I mean, it might be something since like you said, you are built and yours mostly goes to debt service, you're a little different than some of the other projects who are using it for others. So it may be something we can put back in front of the governing body that tweaks that contract and just changes that specific to your project and situation. So.
And I don't want to create a burden on anybody, but it just came to came
January's
up.
Usually slow. We'll be looking for stuff to put on the agenda. It's fine.
So, any questions?
Yeah, I had a question about the ice. I know there's been different because it was new territory, different models have always been looked at. I mean, so does it sound like maybe it's not to say, but the model now is, at one point it was maybe there's just a third party you can just come in and operate the thing and move out, or maybe now it sounds more like, we're going to have to operate it, but we'll rent all the stuff and bring it in, and then...
We're actually looking at exploring all options. I mean, there are vendors out there that will come in and do a turnkey ice operation. They set it up, they put the dashboards up, bring the portable refrigeration equipment, build the rink and everything, and then they will even operate it for you. And they supply skates, the ice skates. That's one option. Another option is purchase your own equipment. Buy it. That obviously requires a capital investment. So we haven't set on a particular path at this point as far as what we're considering. We're going to let the business case speak for itself, and obviously it will take a sizable sponsorship, multiple sponsorships from one or more companies to help sponsor that event. But it is something that Spectre is looking at very seriously at this point.
Great. Any other questions, council members?
I think the only thing I would add to that is, I would probably side on the side of not getting in the ice skating business and look at in-depth RFPs for partnering with someone who brings it in and we pay a fee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I will say, and even as a member of it, because I think we've done some great work, and I think that it's what a fantastic place. I think we do need to make sure that we do continue to push on this issue and come up with an answer for the community, because I do know that it was, one of the things that many people talked about how neat that was going to be, and people donating money. That was kind of an expectation they had, was around Christmas time, I'm going to be able to go ice skate, have a date, those type of things. So
Right.
I don't think that, I guess what I'm saying is, as being on a member of the board, as you know, Kurt, this hasn't been something we put off. It's been more of a COVID type issue that's pushed it back more than anything, because we would more than anything, especially with the weather it's been this year, love to have that ice skating rink down there and people walking to have dinner and all those good things. So, but I think we do need to keep the hammer down on it and keep pushing, and I know you are. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
That it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I believe Joanne is here with the Jayhawk. You're up. Oh, you start. Okay, I didn't know who. So Jeff is here with the Jayhawk, and then maybe Joanne.
Hello, thanks for having us today. We're excited about the idea that we'll be made whole in this weird time that we're in on the Transient Guest Tax Fund, and that's very helpful. We've been on a real tear during the last 12 months of putting together more awareness events and improving our gallery space so that we can have rentals and that sort of thing. We hired an event coordinator, which really has helped us tremendously. I think we have 4 rentals this week, over $1,000 this week coming in on rentals, and had a wedding there last night, a KDHE party there today at lunch, the Lieutenant Governor's there tonight, and Saturday we have an event with a sold-out show with a Christmas cabaret show. So we're doing our best to raise the awareness to the theater. One of the exciting things that's happened in the last few months is we were awarded in February the HTF grant from the State Historical Society, $90,000 grant to get the foundation repaired. And we'll be using transient guest tax money for the architectural planning for that, and that's ongoing right now, so that will show up in a report soon. And Joanne's here with some other information too to help you understand the developments we've made. Invite any questions about what the Jayhawk Theater is up to.
No, I think we'll hear from Joanne, and we can. She covers any of it, and if
Yeah.
not, we'll go from
Thank
there.
you.
I think they loaded her PowerPoint in there. There we go.
Okay. I'm just a few notes here, and then we have some slides to show you. It's been a while, and as Kurt mentioned, it's been a tough go, but we're thrilled to be back opened and getting together in person. So we can't thank you enough. This support has been critical and has meant so much to keeping the project moving forward. And we're working hard to build a broad base of support. I have a couple packets for you guys that lists our current top 100 group of advocates and financial supporters and some updated information, but we would love to update you in person and look forward to doing that, answer more questions. So the other thing we've been working on is putting together a really impressive leadership team, and the people that are involved are also in the packet, and we have another board member, Joe Scranton, here today, and everybody's working really, really hard to get this done. So we continue to research and look at best practices and what other successful and thriving historic theaters are doing. And recently we brought in Jeff Steele from the Historic Galois Theater in Springfield, Missouri, and he shared some really impressive statistics in terms of what that theater means for downtown Springfield. And I know Springfield's a community that we all look to and aspire to be. So having Jeff here, I think heightened the vision of the impact that it'll bring. And of course, Sean's from Springfield, so he can attest to the impact that theater has, and we want to bring that to Topeka. So after Jeff was here and following the Billy Bob Thornton concert, a lot of people were saying, well, we want more of this. We want we like seeing the entire iron rail clear out 10 minutes before a show starts. And we know that this is driving traffic downtown. So can you have more events? And can you bring more people downtown? So one of the things we're looking at that we're excited to be doing is an increased occupancy budget, working with Vance Kelly, our architect. We've met with the fire department and the planning and Fran Hug to look at what that would mean for additional egress and life safety and all of those things that would be included in that. So we have more details on that. Another thing we've been working really diligently on is building really strong partnerships, because nothing happens in a vacuum. And these partnerships with the city and the county and the state and GTP and Visit Topeka, they're key to what we're doing here. And Jeff mentioned the foundation restoration that we'll be doing. We're thrilled to be partnering with the city to come in and we got permission to extend our grant timeline to fit in with the mill and overlay schedule to come in behind that and finish the alley that'll benefit GTP, benefit the Michaelis Loft, Siren Rail, and the Jayhawk Theater. So that'll be great to have that alley finished, and we can do events in the spring and fall and like we've done in the past. So what we're hearing is people want to get this done sooner than later, and we're working on that, working on infrastructure, tourism, quality of life, economic development, and take that all really seriously. So I will just flip through a couple of slides quickly to show you what we've been up to the past few months and since opening in June. And our goal is really the most efficient path to get this done. And we love the history, and it's a real community gym, and we want to leave it better than we found it. This is some construction projects that has happened in the past, and we've been tracking all of our statistics, and since we've opened, we've had 13 shows, 24 events, over 2,000 patrons, and a net profit of almost $15,000. Jeff mentioned that we had hired Sarah, so she has more than paid for herself, and we're looking forward to a great 2022. So here's a few events that we've had, and we have a light rig that was donated by Dave Seaman, and it looks so professional. People think that we're already open and restored. So Emmy-nominated, Grammy-nominated bass player, rocking the Jayhawk, Topeka Cello Collective, full house. It's been great since opening. Everybody's eager to get out. This was a sold-out show. They stayed and did another show then on Sunday. Billy Bob Thornton, that was a great show. Ellie Smith opened. What a great addition to her resume to open for Billy Bob. And so when they had such a great time, they loved Topeka. They want to come back. The promoter called and said, "Hey, I've got other bands. Kevin Costner would be great. We want to come back." So what does that take? Well, that's where the idea of increased occupancy. So a few statistics from Springfield: $12 million to renovate, 12 years to raise the money. They have 3.6 million in ticket sales in 2019 with a tremendous economic impact. So we're looking at what if we did half of that? What if it was 1.8 in ticket sales? And what if it was $6 multiplier? That's 10.8 million potentially a year return on investment. So we've heard a lot of reasons why people want to see the Jayhawk restored. Everything from economic impact to, hey, I'm tired of going to Kansas City and Lawrence. I want to stay here. We want local entertainment dollars here. And it's a unique venue and important to the community's history. We're fortunate. The downtown investment that's already been made here is tremendous compared to where Springfield started. So we have a real advantage. We've been tracking our statistics. We're bringing in 12% out of state, 13% from communities across Kansas, and 61% from Topeka and Shawnee County. Our events are bringing in every zip code across Topeka, so we're really proud of that. We're drawing audiences from all over, including Rocky Horror, just as an example, 5 states. Most of the people were not from Topeka. Sold out. We started First Fridays in the gallery space, promoting local, regional, Kansas City, Lawrence bands, holiday and corporate parties, private parties, and then this is the alley restoration that we're looking forward to in 2022. A couple of images and potential of what that might look like. We're doing STEAM field trips, continued building enhancements, the alley restoration, programming, and working on the architectural plans. So that is it. I just wanted to flip through those quickly and not take more than my allotted time. Do you guys have any questions? I'll defer to Jeff for any questions. But again,
How many people does it hold?
we're grateful.
How many people does it hold now?
The current occupancy is 299.
And how
And
many?
we've had a number of, sold out, nobody else is in the doors, and we count them, and that's it.
So how many seats are you looking to add?
We don't know, the occupancy will be determined by code, and so we're working with them right now, so that'll be determined. But when we get calls from agents and promoters, to make it work, most people are wanting at least 400 to 500 people there.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, go for it.
Joanne, nice work. Thank you. Thank you. As always, you do a great job. And project is going incredibly awesome. Gosh, I remember walking through there day one when Jeff called me. And yeah, from an occupancy, I do have a couple of questions there. First, a statement. My good friend from high school in grade school, Ryan Cook, who came in town and played for the H. Freely band. I had talked to him in the past about he's also in the Gene Simmons band, and we talked about bringing him in here, and he actually brought up the idea of saying, hey, the size of the Jayhawk is perfect for what Gene's doing right now and what we're doing right now. We're not really. That was Alice Cooper playing the Expo, and then Ace Frehley, but that's what those guys are playing. He said, when we're going across the United States, we're playing in, with the Gene Simmons band, the Ace Frehley band, we're playing those sizes. We get dwarfed, in the big ones, and we don't want to go in the small ones. So firsthand, that's exactly what he said. A guy that makes his living doing that. So. I do have a question, and this is going to be more, if Jeff's still around there, I do want to ask him that if he's still.
Yep, he's here. He gets all the hard questions.
Yeah. How are you, friend?
Good, Councilman. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, question for you. Talk to me a little bit about the balcony. What type of plans do we have there on the balcony? And some information had reached me and a couple other council members that we were kind of disappointed with some of the response that our staff had on reconstruction of the balcony and stuff like that. So I'm going to put you on the spot, but I want your honesty, because we want to do what we can do to make this venue what it can be. And there again, tell me what's going on balcony wise.
I think what brought this up was before the Billy Bob show, we were really working hard to make sure that the numbers worked so that we could break even at least, which we did. I think we made a few $100s on that. The balcony was something we had hoped to have a VIP experience for people to maybe sit and watch the show, maybe 20 or 30 up in the balcony. We weren't successful in lobbying for that with city staff at that time. because of the lack of egress and the lack of other concerns that they had about getting people out of there if, let's say, the lights went out and it was all full of smoke or something. And I understand that. And so what we're trying to do is work with the fire department, the planning department, to come up with a reasonable plan that could include the ultimate goal to replace the upper balcony fire escape door and fire escape, which are unusable today. And so that's one of the concerns. And then when you come out of the balcony into the mezzanine and then down to the main floor, the main original entry doors are not usable today. And so part of our discussion with them was our goal to maybe get those doors kind of reopened, or at least a couple of them operational, so that would be a little more quick to get people out if we had to. We are allowed to have up to, I think, 40 people in the mezzanine for our pre-show kind of a VIP event in the mezzanine. And we're allowed to give tours up there in the balcony so people can kind of see what the theater looks like from up there. But we feel like we have a good solid plan moving forward, at least in the interim before the full restoration happens, to allow us to safely have maybe 20 to 40 people sitting in the balcony for shows.
So clearly, obviously, number one priority is safety of your staff and guests and performers. And at the end of the day, that's job number one. I want to make sure absolutely that can be done with no shortcuts, with no Scotch tape solutions and stuff like that. But I'm going to put you on the spot. I was told that a statement was made that as long as certain staff members were there, there would not be a balcony that was going to be used up there. Is that a true statement that was made or not?
That is true.
Because that is true?
That is true. We were pretty much told flat out at the beginning of this tour a few months ago that just wouldn't be considered. And we continued to have the tour and explain what we wanted to do. And it really led to, I think, a good dialogue. We met up here on the third floor in this building with the fire marshal and Fran Hug, who was at the original meeting. And the response was, non-committal at that time. I think they want to see more in writing kind of what we plan to do. And so the architect's been very helpful with that. And we don't want to do this stuff out of order. And so ultimately that balcony will hold 450 people safely. And we're steering toward that moment. And if we can find an interim benchmark where we can have 30 or 40 people up there safely, and we feel we can without any problem, we'd like to do that. But I think we're going to have more resistance.
Well, there again, safety is the number one concern. I think I speak for my colleagues, and if I don't, you can hop in any time. But, safety is the number one concern. But I know for a fact that I'm tired of the first answer being no and not looking for solutions. And I want you to keep this committee abreast if you feel you're not getting assistance in trying to find solutions to the point where sometimes it is just no. Sometimes you do find out it is no. But too many times in the 4 years I've been here, the first answer has been no. And that's not acceptable to me. That's not acceptable to most of the people on the council. And like I said, I don't want to speak for my colleagues here, but I expect some dialogue with you if you feel that you're not getting the cooperation to reach a conclusion that satisfactorily evaluated all opportunities with safety staying in mind. I don't want that to be lost, but I want people that are going to find solutions, not find reasons not to do things.
The bottom line, I think, is Topeka needs entertainment venues, and we're putting our best foot forward. We're showing that we're going to be in compliance and work with them, and I think that's a positive. But Topeka's behind the schedule on a lot of things, and there's through our experiences in the inner city visits which we will be attending in Arkansas next year, we hope and continue to hope that we can model ourselves after those communities, and we hope that city staff on those trips is finding ways around some of those roadblocks and bottlenecks. Now remember, I was on the Landmarks Commission for 3 years, and I watched a lot of frustration in the eyes of some of these developers that have come in here and had a really difficult time getting their projects moving forward and getting estimates and knowing what they can and can't do. And sometimes I think the answers aren't consistent with those people. And I think that that would be very helpful for the city if we could find some way to remove, whatever roadblocks we can to make developers not so frustrated and, want to pick up the ball and take their marbles home and quit playing the game. Because we can't afford that.
Yeah. Well, I can assure you, and I know I can speak for Spencer, because he and I have had multiple conversations about that, and not only in this, but in other situations, the exact scenario that you're talking about is we're going to find people that are going to be on the bus that are going to look for solutions, or there's going to be some empty seats on the bus.
Good way to put it. And Joanne had a couple things she would like to add.
I'll just add this to that. Well, I agree with most of that. I say the fine line we have to make sure we do is those rules have to apply to everybody. And I think where we've run ourselves into is not making exceptions for projects we quote unquote like versus other people who come to us and say, well, they're doing this, but you're not letting me do that. That's not an acceptable way for it. And I think that's the balance we try to find is not picking and choosing those, but making sure that we're applying everything equally across the board.
You have to think about precedents for sure.
I concur.
Councilman, thanks for your comments. And I just wanted to add to what Jeff said, that I felt the meeting was very positive. They were appreciative that we brought the whole team to meet with them and to hear everything firsthand, and that we came early. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. So to get them involved from the very beginning of these steps, and so our plan moving forward is to meet quarterly with them. And then when the funding is secured for that increased occupancy, then we'll start fast tracking that. But we feel like it's going to be really positive moving forward.
Very good.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Member Ortiz.
So is it my understanding that nobody's allowed in the balcony? Is that correct?
That's correct. Nobody sits up in the balcony for events. So we were allowed to have a VIP event in the mezzanine, and then people went down to their seats, but we tour people to show them the balcony, and that's been approved. We could take small groups of 10 people at a time just to walk through.
Okay.
And you see pictures from the balcony, so we run up and take pictures of the events as well, one at a time.
That's fine. I'm just looking at the pictures that you showed me, and I'm looking at the occupancy, and so that's why I'm asking the questions.
Yep.
that I'm asking.
Yeah, so we can go up there. It's safe to go up there, just not to stay and watch an event.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Jeff. All right. Is there anyone here from Constitution Hall that wants to say anything? Speak now. How are you?
Hello, I'm David Beck, and I'm on the board of Constitution Hall. And we're very pleased to make a report. I don't have an extensive report, and I don't have any slides.
That's
so
all right.
we will. We're. If you haven't been down by there recently, you really should. We're very, very pleased with the way the facade turned out, and of course, the facade was one of the major funding sources for that was the transient guest tax. The facade is complete now. And we've also had an opportunity to dress it up a little bit. So we're starting to tell the story. And we completed the beautiful stonework on the facade. And then we put some banners up and a quote from Cyrus K. Holliday prominently displayed as well. Mr. Duncan mentioned the grant that we've received. And that it helped us to turn a corner in the restoration process. It's called the Saving America's Treasures Grant. which is from the National Park Service. We in Topeka have known this as a treasure, and it's a national treasure, and it's nice to have the national recognition. Of course, the money is really nice as well. We like that, but the recognition that it is a national treasure, and it played an important role in the nation's history and abolishing slavery. So that grant will allow us to, it's called an accessibility grant. What it'll allow us to do is put an elevator and a stairway in. Right now you can't get on the second floor. And we'll also put heating and air conditioning in, which is really important, and do some interior work. We're right now in the process of getting approvals to get started on it. And we went through an RFP for an architect and have selected an architect and are awaiting the National Park Service approval of our selection. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but they have a process they have to go through. In fact, there's a lot of approvals that we have to get during this whole process. I mentioned we dressed up the facade. We've hired Sprout Creative to help us tell our story, or help tell the building's story. And they have also developed some banners for the inside that go a lot toward telling some of the things, important things that happened in the building. And I think they're very attractive as well. They are portable so that we can take them on the road and tell our story as well. You may notice that we've started to try to distinguish ourselves. There's a lot of places that call themselves Constitution Hall, including the one in Lecompton, down the road, which was where the slave state Constitution was written. So we're starting the process of, we're considering making it formal, referring to it as the Free State Capital, Topeka's Constitution Hall. Not too many things are called Free State around here, and it does assist us in telling the story of the most important thing about it was it's where the first Free State Constitution was written. So I'd take any questions. Chris Meinhardt's here, who can really handle all the tough questions.
Any questions? No, it looks great. It does make a difference having that facade up versus the years before. Now you go by there and like, wow, this looks really good and clean and nice.
What
and
is this?
You can actually tell it's there now, right? Which is a nice distinction. So.
Yes, yeah. We also put a nice fence up that was mostly security, but it's also decorative. It was designed by a Noto artist. Did a great job.
It looks great. Glad you guys have been able to move forward.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here from any other projects I have not mentioned or who I didn't think were going to be here? I don't think so. I know everyone in the room, so speak now or don't, I guess. Kurt, was your comment about the, okay, just making sure. Didn't want to, anybody else in the crowd want to add anything?
Can I say something briefly, Council?
No, I asked. It's my fault.
Well, I kept my comments to
No,
the industry performance, but I just want to say in terms of these projects and other projects in the community, one of the things that brought me here from Springfield, where they've done these great things, are how many of these are just almost there, where they're good or okay and they're going to be great. And to be part of a community that's that close, I keep telling people Topeka in 2030 is going to be a really amazing thing to see. That's why I've involved myself with these organizations and working on some of their boards. TPAC is another one that I know is important to you that is going to get a shot in the arm and help with this. So I just want to say everyone here is working really hard, and all of these projects are moving along, and it's nice to see. We got a little bit of ways to go, but they're all in their individual way going to make a big impact. I see no competition or overlap amongst any of the performing arts centers or the historic things that were in this. They're all going to be diverse and help make us special. So I just want to add that.
No, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from staff? Anything we haven't talked about or should know about or need to do, right? I don't think we need to do anything or forward anything or vote on anything. So.
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, me either. So I know what will happen now with this committee for next year is we'll eventually elect a deputy mayor who may or may not be in the room or on Zoom currently. But regardless of that, they make their appointments mid or late January after they're done, and then committees kind of tend to start meeting February 1 once those committees are whole or full. So I will tell that person, whomever they may be, that I will probably request to be on this committee. I don't care if I'm chair or not. Again, I'd like to be on it 1 year where we may actually collect some revenue and can do some stuff with it instead of these last years where, come on, there's no money here left around. So maybe I'll get that chance. But so it will be my intention to try to keep some consistency here and continue to serve on the committee. And
Spencer, I too will be making that request as well
I
to
think
somebody that I don't know who's going to be the chair or if he's on Zoom or if he's in the room. But it would be nice to do that, you know. And that's what happens, you know, when we start talking about going year for year, you don't get to really get in and settle your feet. So if I make it on my end, I'd be happy to nominate you chair too.
Well, that'll be then. Let's just
Okay.
one thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Maybe we could send a Christmas card to that
To that
person
somebody,
that,
whoever they may be.
yeah.
I will say theoretically and hypothetically, the hypothetical prospective deputy mayor believes in consistency, and I've always said that I think people ought to be on it 2 years. I mean, to get some consistency, so you're not learning from day one. That's something I've always believed, and theoretically theoretically, I don't see anything changing, including who's the damn chair. I can tell you who won't be chair.
That's it. Yeah, right.
That would be me.
No, it would not.
That would be me.
No, it would not. No, it would. Somebody mute her.
Anything else? Going once, going twice. All right. With that, everybody have a great holiday and finish up the new year strong. And we are adjourned.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yep. Chairs.
I know they don't want to move.
Carpet.